for joining us on another episode, on another live stream, another podcast on our program on Focus on Nigeria. Say a prayer, guys, may Nigeria never happen to you. My name is Richie Adewusi. What time is it? Wow. Sorry again, we're behind time again today. Some little technical issues that we had to sort out so we don't get bogged down by them midstream. Thank you so much for your patience and thank you for joining us. Please, as you join, remember to engage, comment on this program, you need to subscribe. You're not paying any money for subscriptions, but subscribing makes it possible for you to be able to leave your comments in chat and then be able to engage with us in this live stream, this podcast. So welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something that everybody should be interested in. Nigerians, non-Nigerians, food, hunger. Having food to eat, having food available for everyone that needs to eat food. There are some people that, well, by choice, food is not their thing, but everyone, the rest of us normal people, we need food. Okay, so we're looking at the whole food scenario in Nigeria. Hunger, food scarcity or food shortage is not a Nigerian thing. Let me put that up front. It's global. But then, well, in development work, you do not target everybody. You focus. And the focus of this program is Nigeria. And then, well, by extension, friends of Nigeria. So today we are looking at what has been done, what is being done, what has been being done over the whole issue of food security and hunger alleviation, prevention and alleviation in Nigeria over time. Okay. Once again, we have produced a video for you that would help us a little bit more, something, a takeaway, for you to go back to even at the end of the program. And today, again, we're also featuring another Nigerian creative who also didn't keep quiet. Didn't keep quiet like you. You are keeping quiet. Yes, you. Looking at me, you're keeping quiet. You're wishing. You're grumbling in your tummy, believing that things will just automatically become okay by themselves. No, never going to, never has. It takes individuals to step up, do their little bits, speak out, speak. We didn't say get violent, no. Call the attention of the people that have said, oh, I'm your leader, to issues that need attention, issues that concern you. Let's get this straight. You are one person, yes, but then you have every right to, bring forward issues that concern you. You are an individual. You have the right to do that. Then if there are 2 people, 3 people who have rights who have the same challenges you have, you let your voices be heard. So food and Nigeria, food security, food issues in Nigeria. In Nigeria, it's not uncommon to see certain groups of people, becoming good Samaritans at some particular times, periods, not of a particular year, of particular years. Election time, you will see suddenly people begin to tell you that they can give you food. They're actually giving you food. Not of a particular year, of particular. they give you food, make you cure. Of course, in some of those instances, in some of those locations, you are told point blank why you are being given food and who is giving you the food. Should it be that way? No. Now, the federal government of Nigeria, at some point, and if you've been following this program, you will see that we've been looking at specific sectors of the economy, what the government had put in place, what's happened, what's happening, what has happened, and what's still happening with some of those provisions that have been that had been made in time. If they are still functional, they're still being made in the present, and if there are any plans to take such provisions forward to the future, if you like. The National Grains Reserve Program is one of such projects or programs, if you like. Just tap your phone, Google National Grains Reserve. You will find out that one of the stated reasons for putting that program in place is to, well, paraphrased, store up excess. Please hold on to the word excess produce or grains for times of need, for food security, for emergencies, for I don't know if anyone would agree with me. Food security, hunger is a daily national emergency, has been for a while. So there are nice sounding programs. Well, maybe well thought out at their inceptions by those who designed them. But nothing is cast in steel. There is no human invention that isn't or shouldn't or mustn't be open to tweaking, okay? Reviews, restructuring, reprogramming, if you like. So for me, the first thing I found challenging in that is the issue of excess. Who determines what's excess? Why do you have to plan on excess for food security? Why do you have to plan on excess? How does that even sound? Now, that's one, hold that. Again, how does the federal government get the food, the grains that were being stored or are being stored in the silos that were designed and constructed and installed in different parts of Nigeria? How did we get that? The federal government bought, maybe buys the grains from farmers, from produce merchants who buy from farmers. So if the produce merchants, for instance, find better options, meaning more money from elsewhere, so there's no surplus to buy to put in the silos. There goes your excess, store excess. People in some other places would always require food. People in Nigeria are businessmen, businesswomen, merchants who are there to make money, who don't care about national security, not food, not any other type of security. It's making money. So if you ask me, that program is long overdue for restructuring. It's long overdue for restructuring. And I'm speaking experientially. And you get to know in the course of this program. You see those pictures behind me here? They're not there for fun. Like I keep saying each episode, I don't put things up for showing up, no, or showing off. No, no. But what you've done is what you've done. Something anybody can do about it. At the time those things were being done, I didn't say one day I'm going to. By the time those programs were being done, actually, podcast. What's podcast? Then? What's live stream? What's live stream? Okay, do things for what is needed, not looking for any publicity. But then when people who should take things up are not taking up, when the mainstream media have become comic theaters for politicians to come and perform every week, every day, in plain sight, things that then please, you should speak up. Stop using your phone to dance on TikTok. Use your phones to produce film things, talk about things that are meaningful to both yourself and those things you are complaining about. I'm doing mine, okay? I've been doing, not just with this program, over time, okay? Okay. Now, I have studied what food banking means. But before I went through those studies, you know, and when I say study, not that I went to school, no, experientially observe, participate, document here in Canada. But before this time, I also did not just keep quiet back in Nigeria. The results of my not keeping quiet are those pictures that you see behind, but we'll come to them. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's look at the issue around the National Grains Reserve Program. It was a nice thing at the time, and it's a good start. Like we said, there was nothing wrong with the way we started, you know, just like, but there's not a thing that says it must remain the way it was originally designed. We've talked about the need to encourage young people, you know, to become interested, to make farming, agriculture generally, attractive to young people, young graduates especially, non school leavers especially. But then there's the issue of security or insecurity, if you like. Couch has banditry, terrorism, HADs, those issues are there. We'll come to that. By the way, we have a very special edition for next week on security. People are shaking the jar, the bloody jar, including the one who wrote that play, who shook the bloody jar. Yes, they're shaking the bloody jar in plain sight. So we'll talk about all of that next episode, but today we're talking food. But, you know, it's complicated. The food issue, the security issue is part of it. But then let's still say that, well, people are still managing to get a few things done in some places. The National Grains Reserve Program can become not just a receptor, okay? Could become a program through which farmers are encouraged to farm more. At the top there, at the top of the chain, and at the bottom of the chain, hungry Nigerians, indigent Nigerians, don't go hungry daily. How? Okay, what happens now? Okay, let's from what I know, let's share what happens in the present. Okay, Yes, the middlemen buy grains, they're contractors, government contractors, get the grain over time, depending on what anybody decides. What's the budget of the Minister of Agriculture in the first place? Go and look at the national budget for this year. Go and check how much is, you know, um, devoted to agriculture. Start from there. If we have agreed that it is government that buys the produce, grains that get stored in the silos, okay? It's your money. They're not doing you any favor. Get this. It's your money. So when we are making these suggestions here to say, can you redesign this program? Can you be, you're not doing anybody any favor. You're not. After all, you're not paying me for consultancy. You're not. Now, they buy what they decide to buy, who decides to buy. Whatever quantity has been approved and been budgeted for, and whatever quantity eventually gets, but even when it might not account for all the money that have been budgeted for it, some gets stored somewhere in some of those silos. They remain there over time. There is no products, there's no produce. Even human beings have expiry dates. Even humans have expiry date. You that you're listening to me, watching me, you have an expiry date. I have an expiry date. So everything you can think of has the expiry date. So when you store and you just leave it there, maybe you use chemicals to try to protect, to prevent, insect infestation and all of that. Even the chemicals that you use to do those also do have expiry dates. So you cannot store food. Food, remember, it's not drug. Even drug have expiry dates. You cannot store endlessly without, recycling, reusing. And what happens? Lo and behold, maybe there's some flawed situations, like one that happened in 2011, 2012, and the federal under the president then was President Goodluck Jonathan, and there was an order to release grains from the national reserves, and allocations were made to certain affected states in order of how they were affected. There were grades of how the flood affected. Ekiti State was one of the states affected that time. But before I get into that, nobody cares to check what states the food that has been ordered to be released is in. Just to let you have maybe some understanding about how we value human life, how we take citizens, the people you are supposed to be leading, the people you are supposed to be guarding, governing, the people who have trusted you. And make no mistake about it, Nigerians trust their leaders. Embarrassingly so. They just want to leave. They just want you to, they just want to keep going. But would you let them? Are you letting them know? So, yeah, another round of hand twisting, politicking happened in the release of the grains that would have been spoilt anyways. People will make money through trucking. People will make money through providing labor to load, to offload. People will make money. In 2012, um, I think I went on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. And I returned. I had, if you've been following this, at some point in my journey, I decided that I had retired and I went back home, my home state then, back in Nigeria, Ekiti State. And I set up Changeville, if you remember. One of the other things I set up was the Ekiti Food Bank. That project came about because eventually, because of one woman, the idea is to run to run a food program to help the needy. We had talked about that three main categories: orphans and vulnerable children, young widows without nobody helping them that we could identify as having nobody helping them, and elderly persons 65 years and above who would have been verified, documented, not come and line up everybody. No, it's a program. We're still thinking. I had mentioned this. When I say mention, if I tell you mention, that means I have written to some people that I believe could support and make the program to make sense. My other interest in Ekiti, actually major personal interest in Ekiti was the outdoors tourism. Ekiti State is blessed with a bouquet of ecotourism sites that I don't think anybody would be interested in doing anything with them today, considering the security issues. Who wants to go sightseeing when you could be kidnapped? A lot of other crazy things happen. So as I would go to places and post pictures, friends would be like, Richie, where is this? This is beautiful. A lot of my friends, Nollywood, even from outside Nigeria, which is not, you can't be, where is this? In my home state, Naked. We are coming, they will come. Some of those who I paid the host to included Nigerian veteran movie maker Tade Ukidan, Nollywood, big names, Shola Subowale, so many others. But I'm mentioning Tade Ukidan and Shola Subowale specifically because on the day, on a particular day, Tade came a number of times, wasn't once. But on this particular day, Shola Subowale in Nollywood, veteran Nollywood actress, was with us. I was taking them to show them there was a stream in a particular town called Erijinyo Ekiti that myth has it that the fish won't cook, won't cut, and they don't fear humans. Okay, well, if you won't cook and won't cut, why would you fear anybody anyways? So we're going there. And as we parked and we're walking to the stream, an old woman approached me and spoke in Yoruba. My Yoruba is not perfect, so don't worry, but I speak it, so don't. And she said she was carrying, the first thing that hit me was she was having some logs of wood, some wood, firewood, okay, a bunch of firewood, not a lot, bunch of firewood tied up on her head. Um, who could have sent this woman on this kind of errand? My spirit was disturbed. And as I was just thinking to myself, she walked up to me and said, "Oh, mommy, fún mi lówó kí n fi jẹun mi tí jẹun láti látọjọ́ mẹ́ta." Mo ní, my child, give me money to eat. I have not eaten in 3 days. My worry evaporated from the thought of the firewood. I called some staff that were with me. I said, please take the firewood off her. They took the firewood off her. As a routine, I usually don't carry cash. I just took my wallet out. I was able to find 200 naira. What would 200 naira do? This, remember, 2012. But I gave it to her. And she walked off. The spirit just said, what's your problem? You are talking about starting a food bank and giving people food and all of it. Somebody just approach you and then you say, carried firewood to where she's living, give her 200. What would 200 naira do? There and then, the conviction to get the food bank started happened. That woman, Mama, if you check on your screen now, you will see her being given some food by the governor, okay, of the state at that time, Ekiti State Governor, Dr. Kalde Fayemi. She was the very first person that food was given. I mean, when that program, at the launching of that program, that, I had to send for her to be brought. Not sure, not sure. Okay, so if you may, that's her receiving. You see, what is being given to her is not the food she received. So don't make no mistake. You see, all of the bags you see down were hers. And that was what people received. The people who were identified, not a Sarah, everybody come. No. When you're running certain programs, you focus on certain people first, then you can expand. We focus first on orphans and vulnerable children, young widows, and elderly people 65 years and above. This woman, as at this time, was over 80 years. Because she couldn't carry any of the bags, even if they lifted it and gave to her, she couldn't. So the governor nicely just took something from one of the bags and just handed over to her. I'm somewhere in that picture. Just to let you know that I don't like showiness. It's not about, oh, this is me, I'm the one doing. No, I'm somewhere there. I could stand right behind the governor. I could stand right beside the deputy governor himself and the commissioner and the late deputy governor. I chose, it's not about me. And it mustn't be about you. Politicians, it mustn't be about you. You are not doing the people any favors by performing your duties. You're not. Of course, Mama Ibutude got cared for at least 2 years before she passed on. In 2014, I was on a trip. I went for a trip to the US. Usually, every week I went to visit her. Then I went on a visit. It wasn't actually a visit. I went to for fundraising, you know, uh, meetings for the food bank in the US. And time I returned, my spirit wasn't the same. I got back to Ekiti, got back to Chainville. I just got into a car. I drove to Virginia. As I arrived there, the neighbors were calling me, oh, Mama's child. Mama. Mama's child. I become her child. She became my mom. As I parked, the neighbors started gathering, long faces. I didn't know this woman from anywhere. I'm not from a region. It didn't matter where I'm from. It didn't matter what I know. Now, I saw a small mound in front of her house. The neighbors who were gathering, just some of them putting their hands on my shoulder. Sorry. Sorry. I didn't need any soothsayer to tell me what would have happened. I just put two and two together. So I say it must be Mama in that mound there. She had died while I was away and she had been buried. But she received care for those 2 years. So did hundreds, thousands of others in those three categories. Was it me? Do I have money? I don't. Does UN have money? Does not have any money. UN depends on donations from member nations. You could put yourself forward to get things done. And the National Grains Reserve, the federal government have put the National Grains Reserve forward to tackle the hunger issue. So let's start doing things the right ways. Now, the grains that they brought to us, part of the donations, like I said, during the 2011-2012 flood, that made them to say, let's release grain, which they did. Ekiti received, I think, 25,000, was it 25,000? 25,000 tons, whichever. Maize, sorghum, millet, gari, all spoiled up to 80%. The maize was smelly. To make matters worse, Ekiti people are generally not some of the byproducts of maize would have been what is called in Nigeria ogi or akamu or pap. Okay, if you want to use English, it's ogi and akamu. I don't know about pap. And agidi, eko. The people, when anybody is drinking ogi, given them is sick people, they'll tell you, and that time it was a problem. They'll tell you, are we sick people that you're giving us maize? That's another story about the food distribution thing. Now, we could only eventually seek for permission from the government to dispose. The gari was useless because even some of the people that got came back, even their goats and their chicken and could not even eat even when they threw the gari produced, burnt, spoiled gari to animal. The other grains could only be used for at feed mills, you know, right? So we had to get permission from the state government to dispose of to feed mills and then use the funds now get. If you look behind me here, that gentleman on top of that's a truck that's offloading, if you like, part of the donation. That's the Ekiti Food Bank storage facilities then in Ado Ekiti then. The group of women you see here to this other side, that's the elderly. Some people, when these pictures were published about that time, were like, how can this be hungry people? That means you don't understand the Ekiti people generally. Even if they are dying of hunger, they are coming to collect free food. They will still dress. So they are going out. And I like that. Initially, some of them will come and like, and they'll be talking to them. Well, you don't have because you have to. You don't look, you have already been identified. We went, selected specific communities. Within those communities, we documented people in those three categories that qualify to get food from the food bank. It was not political. I pleaded to my friends in politics and all of it to say, please, some of their aides, of course, did what most political aides in Nigeria do, populated the list, the initial list with relations, with acquaintances, and we found out and said, no. I told one of them who was a director then, I said, look, you should be ashamed of yourself. You put your mother's name here in this list. What you're saying to your mother is, I can't feed you. You should be donating. And by the way, it wasn't the federal government. We didn't start the food bank with the federal government donation. It was later. Like I said, I returned from that trip and I found a letter. A letter was brought to me by my staff. The Commissioner for Agriculture had invited me for a meeting, and then that letter said, there was a donation from the federal government that because of our activities at the food bank, that they would want us to spearhead the distribution of the donation from the federal government. I went for the meeting and I declined spearheading. Single-handedly, I declined because first, I don't work for government. Second, I don't play politics. Third, I will not do what I do not believe is not the right thing to do. So I suggested to the Honorable Commissioner then, please divide this donation into two. Okay? We will spearhead the distribution of half through civil society organizations, market women, NGOs, community groups, CBOs, civil-based organizations. Yes. Yeah. But the other half, please let your local government distribute. And then, but to make sure that we would have data for how this was distributed, we also volunteered to develop the tools with which to capture the data for the distribution. And they agreed. And we did that. Did it go well? So I'm saying this up front because some of the comments I'll probably get now or later will be that, Richie, what you're suggesting, people are going to mess it up. People are going to, people are going to hijack it. People are going to, it's going to be partial. Yes, all of those things played out in our running the food bank. But if you are programmed properly, you will still be able to service a good percentage of those that need help. You do not say because certain things would happen and then you leave everybody, use one side. No, don't do that. Of course, the local government, the 50% that went to the local government, there was no report. Some of the pictures that they brought back were traditional rulers and their oloris, their queens, surrounding in the palace with the donated food. And I've said, look, I can't use this. These are not who this food is meant for. So I'll come back to this other picture here. Don't worry, I'll come back to it. I've talked about the two of this. That picture, there's a word in the caption for this episode. Well, two words, a phrase really, stomach infrastructure. This picture brought it about. This picture brought that about. But had nothing to do with that concept. It was service. Pure service. Okay, but we'll come to it. Now, if the Federal Grains Reserve Program is to function in a way that will be win-win for everybody, from the top to the bottom, from the farmers, there should be a rolling program, not for excess. No, it should be designed. There are people whose head work better than mine who can come up with how that would happen. But a rolling program to buy crops in season of farmers. Work as much as possible to eliminate the middlemen that would buy from them and export. Okay? How is it going to happen? I don't know. So the farmers will not have any issues with cropping. Right now in Nigeria, I consulted while we are designing this. Farmers have produce that they can't sell to government because government lifted the ban on importation of food because of food scarcity and all. If you run a properly designed program, that would not happen. That would not be necessary. You will not wait till crisis to import. You would only import what is necessary, what is not being produced. But if you work at encouraging people to farm, when they farm, you take off produce from them. Of course, they sell their own, they also sell, but you have, we don't even know how many people are in Nigeria, and the population, you don't know his estimate. Okay, so you estimate what the produce, what the tonnage of produce for, let's say, cassava would be. You don't store cassava, you store gari. Okay, well, rice, beans, but it's cassava you use to make gari, and starch. Sorghum, you make those estimates, and okay, if this was going to go to the population through direct marketing in the produce market for consumption, you're taking this off, continue, you buy. Now, be very intentional about release dates, meaning expiry dates. Encourage civil society organizations to get involved in a coordinating food banking program across the states. Yeah. Don't wait for emergency. So that when those expiry dates get near, the grains or whatever food is stored, are released through the food banking program to the civil society organization. For distribution through the food bank. People will be fed. More will be bought from farmers who would have more money. No spoiled products will be fed the people. And even the middlemen will struggle now. They will struggle now to get produce to buy, to export on their own. The system, Nigeria, could involve the manufacturing sector to this. I will come to explain that with, I told you I've studied, I've seen, and I'm sharing here. They could involve the manufacturing sector to that. Manufacturers would have expiry dates. Make it a law. Through NAFDAC. You have it there. NAFDAC is the organization in Nigeria that is responsible for, it's like food administration, whatever in the US, to be sure that what's out there for the public consumption are healthy, are good for public health purposes. Manufacturing companies can be encouraged to key into this program to supply the established food banks. It's not encourage people, civil society, set up food banks, support them. Don't politicize it. So the manufacturing sector could, when produce items, yes, are getting close to their expiry period, encourage the people they have supplied, their distributors now, to donate those foodstuff to the food banks. It's not free. So don't say, look at it, so simplistic. Can you imagine this man talking? It's not free. Now, Nigeria has just introduced or launched or is talking about a new tax policy. What is in it for the guy on the street? What are the things? What is in it? The assumptions. This could be one of the ways to get the ordinary man on the street to know that there's something in it for him for paying his taxes. The manufacturing sector, the distributors who will go to donate food items that are nearing expiration for onward distribution to people who will consume them, would get tax credits for doing that. It's a lot of money for them. It's a win-win for everybody. Nobody loses anything. That's what happened here. That's how the food banks are funded here. The government still gives them grants, direct cash for buying certain, food products that, things like milk. You can't store milk and say when it's going to, especially fresh dairy milk, the shelf life is very, short. Fortunately, in Nigeria, well, a large portion of the populace don't depend on milk. There's a population that depends on milk. Yes, we know. It's not a one-size-fits-all. The food banks will function within the areas servicing the population within which they are located, going by the food culture of those populations. Like I just said in Ekiti, they say, you're giving us maize. We should make ugi and are we sick? Their culture is not about drinking pap ugi or eating, echo. No. We have to sell the grains, buy beans, buy rice, and distribute it to them. But you need to have a good understanding of all of this. But then, must it always be about federal government, or state government? No. In designing the Ekiti Food Bank, we funneled, if you like, individuals to donate. And we worked on, for want of a better word, their sentiments. The Ekiti Food Bank program had three major components: distribution of raw food, distribution of cooked food, and the Ekiti Food Bank farm. And the women who were running the soup kitchens were organized into cooperatives that within their communities where they were the ones running the soup kitchens. Okay? Through those cooperatives, they were encouraged to go into farming. Fish farms, poultry, vegetable farm. That was the stage at which we were before the politicians struck, and I had to, suspend the food bank project. I was being harassed over you're giving people food. People thought you were doing it for some political gains. I'm not interested in politics. So the soup kitchens themselves, which is the gentleman who was serving there is Dr. Kayode Fayemi, the serving governor of that state at the time. The person to his right, it should be the hand with which he's holding the spoon, is his wife, Erelu Bisi Fayemi. The other guy in green over there looks like me. Okay? There's a lot of history and story behind this picture. But let me start with how the soup kitchens were set up in the first place. The soup kitchens, we approached individuals, prominent individuals from communities to say, look, when you go home, people run to you to say, give us money, but you can do better. We challenge them. Commit to a donation of 50,000 naira every month. We will match your 50,000 with another 50,000. We will feed 50 members of your community 3 times a week. At least they are sure they have food to eat 3 times a week. Still within those 3 categories: orphans and vulnerable children, young widows, elderly people, 65 years and above. We had partners. This picture here where Dr. Fayemi is serving food is in a place called the Tapaikiti. That soup kitchen was set up in partnership with the Ekiti Food Bank, by a family, the Ajiboyes. At that time, Honorable Ajiboye was in the House of Assembly. His wife was our major supplier, was a distributor for rice and, well, foodstuff, beans and all that. So he was a major supplier to the food bank. When I say supplier, we bought from her. On the 23rd of December, 2013, but I promised my mother we're bringing her granddaughter to visit her. My first granddaughter, the first time she was going to see my mother. Now we're taking off. We got to a place called Umunede on the Benin-Onitsha highway. And the mother of my children, her phone rang. And she looked at it and I said, oh, wow, it's Erelu, the wife of the governor. The person who is saying is Erelu was in the cabinet at that time. She was a commissioner in that administration. I was like, hello, say hello for me. I said, no, I was driving. I love to drive myself. And so she wants to speak with you. So we had to stop. We got to a market. They were buying things for my mom. So I was speaking with her. Doki, His Excellency would like to at least see the good work you're doing. I'd like to visit one of your soup kitchens. It was Christmas time. It was December. But I said, I'm going to see my mother, and we're already far away from the kitchen, and I'm not back. I'm not back till the new year. My mother will kill me if I cancel this trip. It's for the purpose of her seeing her first grandchild from me. She said, okay, you mean I should go and tell the governor, go and tell your friend that she should not bother. I said, no, you can't say that, please. Okay. I said, look, let me think. Well, long story short, I had to appeal to my mom. We only spent Christmas. And Christmas also happened to be the birthday of the mother of the grandchild. So my daughter, was born on a Christmas day. So we celebrated. And my other siblings hadn't arrived because we always planned to arrive together, be with Mama and then all. They hadn't arrived. The plan was for them to arrive for the new year and we'll all be there. First thing, the morning of 26th, we left. Ekiti to Aba in Abia State. That was the first trip. Now we left Osauku village in Abia State to return to Ekiti. I had to recall my staff. We were already on vacation for the year. I had to recall my staff, please come back. The soup kitchens already had, we gave them products, foodstuff, monthly. Okay, it's not come and collect every month. They will come, the coordinators will come, pick up what they need to use to cook for the month. So they had received all they needed for the Christmas period. I remember clearly too that we received some goats. We received a donation of goats, which had distributed to the various soup kitchens from the wife of the governor at that time. All the soup kitchens got a goat that time, yes, from the wife of the governor. We had people like the former speaker of the State House Assembly, the late Honorable Fumini Yafuye, who went to his farm through that time, harvested yams, and brought to the food bank. Even the governor himself donated, I can't remember how many hectares now of his cassava farm to be harvested to the food bank. There were several other individuals. We had 16 soup kitchens, which meant that we had 16 different individuals who decided to invest in their communities to feed at least a specific number of people, to make sure that a specific number of people have food to eat. If you redesign the Federal Grains Reserve Program to include the establishment, to support the establishment of food banks across Nigeria through civil society, you can do this. You can feed people. Farmers would have more money. They wouldn't wait till the produce buyers decide whether there's excess or not. You wouldn't give people spoiled produce or products to eat from the. You wouldn't wait till when there is a landslide or, delay in rainfalls for farmers or flood to say there is hunger emergency on a daily basis. Target programs, not the ones that you do when you're going for political campaigns, that will function without you making it look like you're doing the people a favor. I'm going to pause here for us to play the video that we have produced for this episode. When we return, I want to apologize. Last episode, I left here without, taking your comments, although I went ahead to discuss them on TikTok, but then not here on YouTube. So sorry about that. So I want to make sure that that doesn't happen today. Okay. So we're going to play that video for this episode today. There's so much, we have so much, contribution already here today. So we don't miss out on them. So we'll take that video now. When we return, we'll continue. Thank you so much for being here.
Hunger has no accent. It speaks one language, silence. And in Nigeria today, that silence is everywhere. Across homes, markets, and farmlands, the struggle to afford a simple meal is real. Every year, prices rise, incomes shrink, and the distance between harvest and hunger grows wider. The painful truth is this: Nigeria can grow enough food, but it fails to manage what it already has. Watch this video, created for Say a Prayer guys. May Nigeria never happen to you, to see how the Nigeria National Grains Reserve Program was designed to safeguard Nigeria's food future, and how the voice of Ras Kimono, through his timeless hit song, Under Pressure, still echoes the cry of a nation burdened by scarcity, corruption, and neglect. In 1987, under the Nigerian military government of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, the National Grains Reserve Program was launched through the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, FMARD. Its goals include to store surplus grains during times of abundance and releasing such stored grains during scarcity, stabilizing prices, and ensuring that no Nigerian goes hungry. In the first phase, silos were built across the country, holding a total capacity of about 136,000 metric tons, a strong beginning, and a symbol of national readiness. But the promise faded. The silos that once represented hope now stand as monuments of neglect, mostly empty, decaying, and forgotten. Grains meant for emergency relief have been lost to pests, moisture, and mismanagement. In many cases, silos are locked, idle, or leased away, while citizens face rising food prices and hunger. This is not merely an agricultural failure. It has continued to be a case of leadership failure. Successive Nigerian governments have treated food security as a political slogan rather than a national duty. Policies are announced with pride, but they die quietly when attentions shift. Nigeria should by now have evolved that vision into a structured national food banking system, one that connects farmers to federal silos, state warehouses, local cooperatives, and community food centers. A system where no grain is wasted, and no indigent family or individual is left without food. Where farmers can sell their harvests into the reserve and receive fair payment, and where grains are stored for food security, and circulated efficiently to feed indigent people and vulnerable communities. Yet this vision will remain only a dream until Nigeria's leaders recognize hunger as a national emergency. It is not enough to build silos. They must function. It is not enough to announce food releases. The food must reach real people in need of food, and it is not enough to speak of food security. The system must deliver securely in structured and sustainable ways. This is the spirit carried in Ras Kamono's voice. Born Iklik Elumulu Onwabaya on May 9, 1958, in Delta State, South Nigeria, Ras Kamono grew up to become one of Nigeria's fearless cultural activists through his music. He came of age during Nigeria's turbulent 1980s, an era of military rule, rising inflation, and widening inequality. While others sang of love and leisure, Kamono chose a harder road. He used his art to question authority, challenge greed, and speak for those who could not afford microphones. In one of his hit songs, Under Pressure, released in the late 1980s, the very same period when Nigeria was building those silos, he sang about citizens crushed by hardship and bad governance. His words captured the frustration of ordinary Nigerians who labored every day but could not afford the basics of life. When he cried, "We are under pressure," it was more than a song. It was a warning, a call to the leaders, to the people not to remain docile.
Under pressure, Nigerians, under pressure, Africans, under pressure. No food, we belly, no money, in our pocket, no bed, we ate. The people, they must suffer, in a ghetto, in a city, everywhere that we go, we see them.
Ras Kamono's message and the mission of the Nigeria National Grains Reserve both point to one truth: resilience alone is not enough. Hope must be backed by structure, and efforts must be matched with accountability. Hunger is not destiny. It is the result of many bad choices made by those in power. And if poor leadership created it, responsible leadership could end it. The Nigeria National Grains Reserve can still become the foundation of a reliable food banking system, one that protects Nigerians from hunger, stabilizes prices, and restores the dignity of labor and a national interest in the agricultural sector. It begins and needs to be with better planning, more resolve and commitment, transparency and accountability, and action, not just during election campaigns, but every single day. Nigeria does not need more empty promises that are made by politicians to be politically correct. It needs working systems. It needs leaders who understand that food is the foundation of peace, productivity, and progress. Because when people have food to eat, they could think. When they could think, they could build. And when they get to build, the nation finally gets to rise and stand firm. Our series, The Quest for a Working Nigeria, continues to explore these themes, the people, the institutions, and the ideas that could still make Nigeria whole again. It is a call for accountability and a reminder that hope is only as strong as the systems that sustain it. Want to learn more? Our live stream on this topic is linked in the description. Activate the notification bell so you do not miss any new episodes. And if you find this video valuable, we invite you to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Say a Prayer, guys. May Nigeria never happen to you, so you never miss the conversations that matter about Nigeria and Nigerians. May Nigeria happen for all Nigerians and friends of Nigeria.
Thank you so much for watching the video and being here. We have some of your engagement questions, but please go ahead and share more, bring more. We will take them today. Now, I just saw a comment here that says, how are you going to pay for all of that? No, let me say here that I've already talked about engaging prominent indigents of specific communities to support. It's advocacy. The food bank, the organization setting up the food banks must have, resource leveraging strategies of their own too. If you lack, when you set them up, contact me. I will help you. I will give you ideas. I might ask you to pay me. You're not paying me now. Nobody's paying me now. But I don't mind. This is service, and we should understand this. We should play our parts. Now, the women who run the soup kitchen, my staff ran the distribution of the dry or raw food stuff from that facility you are looking at there in the picture behind me. They were paid. They were already working on other projects that we were running. So this was just something extra that we had to do. And over time, I've been blessed with people who shared ideas and visions I've had about things and contributed and made sacrifices. They did, in that case. So we didn't have to really hire a whole lot of new people to run that. As for the soup kitchens, the widows, part of the widows who qualified to benefit from the food bank were those who ran the soup kitchens in their communities. They were not paid money. It was volunteer. They were given foodstuff for their families every month. They were not allowed. They signed, there was a code of conduct document. It's, if you like, do's and don'ts, what you can. So one of the things I couldn't do is take cooked food home. No, you could eat what you couldn't take, but we gave them raw food. And they also were to benefit from running the farms. If we had started them, we never started the farms before the politicians came and wanted to. Once Dr. Fayemi was out of office, the thinking was that, oh, well, it was a government project. The person who replaced him, Mr. Fayoshe, sent the Speaker of the House of Assembly to come meet me to say, you will still run the food bank, but we only just want to control 40%. And I say, control 40% of what? If you have food to donate. There are people who have been in government who donated specifically. And my job is to give the food to the right people that we have identified need the food. Here in Canada, you don't just walk into food banks and collect food. No, you go, you're hungry, you want food. Yes, you go to the food bank, you Google, you check the address of the one nearest to you. You go there, they will document you. They would ascertain whether you qualify to receive food or not. And if you qualify, they have specific days they give to specific people. They will schedule you, but they won't let you go empty-handed that first day because, well, you didn't know. They will give you something to go away with and then schedule you, give you notifications from when it's your time. Those three categories that we mentioned, all of this was before I arrived here, before I went to study how food banks run in Canada. And I was amazed at how well we did ourselves, okay? They didn't all come the same day. We had a separate day for the widows, we had a separate day for orphans and vulnerable children, we had a separate day for the elderly persons. The persons you see in this picture to, well, my right to your left, if you are watching the video, are elderly persons 65 years and above. So we didn't pay the volunteers money. There was no cash exchanging hand for people who worked. We had those 16 or more. Okay, guys, sorry, can you just put up for me the collage? I mean, let's show you pictures of some of the things that happened in different places, some of the individuals too. In one of those pictures, there was a deputy, the the deputy governor, Professor Adelabu, that replaced our dear Amazon, Moremi of Ekiti, Mrs. Olainka, that passed on. Professor Adelabu partnered us to set up 2 soup kitchens in Ado-Ekiti because she is from Ado-Ekiti. That's how this was run. That's how you can leverage from what's already existing, what's already been established through the Federal Grains Reserve Program. Encourage civil society groups to form food banks. It can be structured that way. They are not coming up emergency. There is, by the way, when COVID hit, I panicked again. From here, I called people. We set up an organization again. It's called NERAN. I went ahead, spent my money, registered it with the CAC in Nigeria. But when I started seeing pictures of government officials hoarding Indomie, branding food products that are meant for people with their pictures and all of that for their personal ceremonies like birthdays and all of that, I changed my mind. It was not about me changing my mind. I involved a lot of people in the governing board of trustees for that, and I didn't want. It wasn't about me. All the money I spent in registering NERAN and all, it was supposed to. What I'm saying here about getting civil society organizations start food banking programs was what we planned then. Remember when COVID years 2019, 2020, that NERAN was muted. It was to encourage civil society groups to set up food banks across Nigeria and not wait for emergencies. And we're saying that this program gives us the opportunity to say that again. And the federal government can midwife that through the Federal Grains Reserve Program. Okay? But the ways that we have, if you look at the picture that we have, is put up there, you will see different. So it wasn't one place. I said, I didn't say 16 local. Ekiti has 16 local government. It was in 16 communities. The soup kitchen was not in all 16 local government because it wasn't a government thing. It wasn't government sharing. It was the soup kitchens were only established in communities where we have prominent members of those communities who agreed to partner with us to set up the soup kitchens in their community. Okay? And we had so many friends who came. There's a very interesting picture in that group. Because there are so many, I wouldn't be able to specify, but I'm going to ask for a picture of the delegation from the National Assembly that came to see whether what we were doing at the Ekiti Food Bank was real or not, or whether the food that was donated from the Federal Grains Reserve to Ekiti that was said to have been distributed from the Ekiti Food Bank was really if our programs were real. Please, if you could put up the picture of the visiting team from the National Assembly to see. If you actually look at the bottom, the lady, okay, the picture is up now. The gentleman in the white. Okay. Okay. So this can be done, please. They came and said, is it true? And then if we could have, please, could you put back the collage, the picture of the collage up? If you look at those pictures, you will see, since you've seen this gentleman in the white robe there, you will recognize him from the pictures in the collage. He followed us to homes of individual elderly persons. Those ones were not, we didn't get them to come to collect their food. Their food were served them at home after the women would have done the cooking from the cooking centers. All of the other beneficiaries had to come collect their cooked food. But if you look, I think there are two. Yeah. Yeah, there are about two pictures there. The pictures in the middle, the bottom of that collage, you will see the gentleman there, in white robe, visited, we didn't plan the visit, but when they came, we had to. I trusted the people who were running because they had some very strict code of conduct to follow. I think I closed one or two soup kitchens for misconduct. And we assigned other people to continue with that. Members here today, please. We hear a lot about mismanagement and spoilage in grain silos. Who exactly should be held accountable? The Ministry of Agriculture or state government? Everybody. That's why the program needs to be redesigned. Okay? People who run those things mostly are contractors. They don't care. All they want is their money. It will still be contractors that will run it, but then they have to run the programs. Well, when I say contractors, the ministry have staff that could actually do those things. But SOPs, standard operation, whatever, procedures, there has to be agreed from expiry, from supply chain, distribution chain. It has to be rethinkered. Silos are located in states. The federal government is not one state. So silos, and it's Federal Ministry of Agriculture staff that run those, that are supposed to manage those silos in whichever, the ministry has state branches and all of that. Yes, I know that. Okay. So this is not a game, a blame game. So everybody should get serious. I think food security should be the main fruit of yes. I think we spoke to this on TikTok where it was first. It is the new tax policy can actually be sold to people, the ordinary persons, by letting them know part of what they can benefit. Going to collect food from the food banks, yes, when they're hungry, when they really need food. And of course, the food banks will decide who qualifies at those times. So leave those ones. Yes, it's not free for all. There was a case of a woman who somehow
Recording in progress.
okay. So is it fair to say Nigeria doesn't have a policy? Nigeria has an implementation. They have both policy and implementation problems. We've already taken a whole lot of it. Could it be that Nigerian politicians plan to keep the people hungry so they can? Of course, that's a strategy. The same thing they are doing with the divide and rule thing, Christian, Muslim, North, South, tribe, and all of that is divide and rule. You keep people hungry so they keep them queued up to come and collect 10 naira, 1,000 naira to vote for you. And the people themselves are silly, to say the least, to keep falling for that every cycle. What do you think of the situation during COVID where thousands of palliatives were stored up? And, well, we've already touched up on that to say it's part of the reasons for which we didn't go ahead with Neran. Neran was a new era. I don't even know what it means again. It was supposed to be action network. It was supposed to be an action network. Our job was supposed to be, sensitize the system, get civil societies to start food banks, and we leverage resources through and send to them to now, okay? But when I started seeing pictures of locked up warehouses with palliatives and then all that happened that time, I just gave up. And then we've not talked about Neran again. So I'm seizing this opportunity to apologize to all of our board members who, it wasn't, I don't I don't start anything that I wouldn't be able to do. But when you have situations that present to you as what somebody's going to hijack those things and you are not on ground, I mean, yeah, you can't be on ground to do everything. But if you do not have a trust in the system, but this can work. Would it be successful in all of the states, in all of the places? Probably not. But we cannot say because something might go wrong in one or two places and not put a system in place that has potentials to benefit a greater number of the people. So I want to thank you so very much for being part of our show today. We have two very big episodes coming up. As a matter of fact, to round up this season, the first season for the next 3 episodes, well, next week we're going to be talking security or insecurity. And the episode after that, we are going to take, if you have taken anything, if you have seen that I don't talk about things I have not experienced. And when we said, may Nigeria not happen to you, well, it's up to you to decide which of the stories I've told you here is Nigeria happening to me and Nigeria happening for me in the food area. Okay? So next episode is going to be on the security or insecurity issues and those who are shaking the bloody jar in plain sight. From Aso Rock to nooks and crannies of Nigeria. Who are those shaking the bloody jar in plain sight? The week after that, we look at the issue of corruption. Fella said, you be thief, I no be thief. A lot of name calling have been going on, and Nigerians are just laughing on TikTok. They're just laughing. When are you going to stop laughing and take action? When are you going to start calling for people to be held accountable? When are you going to stop thinking is some drama just going on? It's your life they're playing with. I'm not running a new episode, but I'm just letting you wake up from your docility. Okay? So thank you so much for being here with us today. It's still, say a prayer, guys, may Nigeria never happen to you. 1 p.m. West African time, Nigeria. 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, US and Canada. My name is Richie Adewusi, and my prayer every week here is, may Nigeria happen for all Nigerians and friends of Nigeria. With that, I say bye-bye. See you in the next one.
Hunger has no accent. It speaks one language, silence. And in Nigeria today, that silence is everywhere. Across homes, markets, and farmlands, the struggle to afford a simple meal is real. Every year, prices